Hey parents and students. So the next lesson we're working on with fractions is mixed numbers. Now students should already know that a mixed number is a mix between whole numbers and fractions, hence the word mixed numbers. So we've been working on adding mixed numbers. And just like if we were adding a regular number, we're going to start all the way to the right. Whereas before it would be the ones place, this is going to be a fraction. Because if it's a number less than a whole, it's going to be to the right. That's important to know when we get into decimals as well. So we're going to add the fractions first. So we have 2/6 plus 3/6. Now I encourage students to pull out those fractions. It looks a little less busy this way. So remember, we don't add the denominators. We're not changing how many pieces are in our whole, just how many pieces that we have. So we have 2/6 plus 3/6. That would be my 5/6. Only that numerator changes. And then after that, we're going to add our wholes. 3 plus 1 is 4. Now here's the important part. Always look at this fraction. If you remember on the last video, I encourage you to remember less than, greater than, or equal to 1 whole. So students really need to look at this. That's going to be really important. In this case, we need 6 pieces to make a whole. We have 5 pieces, so that would be less than 1 whole. Now, that is so important, and that's why I had that fraction basics video. Because when we get into a problem, for instance, like, and I'll move this down a little. Let's do 2 5/8 plus 3 6/8. Okay. Again, we start with the fractions. 5/8 plus 6/8. That would be 11/8. So they're going to write that down. And then we have 2 plus 3 is 5 wholes. Now here's where those fraction basics come into play a lot. So we have 11/8. Well, in this case, how many pieces does it take to make a whole? Yep, my denominator tells me that. 8 pieces. How many pieces do I have? That's where my numerator comes in, 11. Well, if it takes 8 pieces to make a whole, and I have 11, that's extra. So that's greater than 1 whole. I can't have that in a mixed number. A mixed number has to have a fraction less than 1 whole. So what we have to do is we're going to regroup. Now this is kind of, if we were adding a regular number, we'd regroup into the tens. But in this case, this is a fraction. So it's greater than 1 whole. I need it less than 1 whole. So I'm going to take out something equal to 1 whole. So we should always think about that denominator. It's so key and important. It takes 8 pieces to make a whole. Remember, I have to have the same denominators, so that's going to be 8. Now, how many pieces to make a whole? That's right, 8. So if I'm taking out a whole, it takes 8 pieces to make a whole. I'm going to take 8/8. That's equal to 1 whole. 11 minus 8 is 3. My denominator stays 8ths. So this is going to be my new fraction. Now, I can't just take out 1 whole and throw it away and be done with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this 1 whole that we took out and we're going to add it to our wholes. So now instead of 5 wholes, I'm going to have 6 wholes. And now what I tell students is, now we're going to take the 2 and we're going to marry them. So they're going to be together forever. So it's going to be 6 3/8 is my new answer. So one more example. We're going to do something, let's do 2, and I know the kids are going to laugh at me. I can't help it. I'm always using this 2. Let's do 2 and 2/4 plus 4 and 2/4. Okay. So again, we're going to add those fractions first. 2/4 plus 2/4 equals 4/4. So I'm going to write that down. And then 2 plus 4 is 6. So right now we have 6 and 4/4. Well, we should be able to look at this and we should know, oh, that's equal to 1 whole. Now, I have students who know right away, oh, that's 1 whole. I'm going to take it, add it over, 7 wholes. I have other students who still want to look at it and say, okay, let me take out 1 whole. How many pieces to make a whole in this case? Yep, denominator tells me that. You're going to hear me refer back to that every single time we're looking at these fractions. So 4 pieces to make a whole. How many pieces do we need to make a whole? Again, 4. So they take out 4/4. That equals 0/4. If I have no pieces, that's 0. So we take that whole, move it over. That's plus 1 whole. So we have 7 wholes. Now, it doesn't matter if they recognize this as a whole and they add it over right away, or if they go through these steps. Either way, you should still get the same wholes. So always remember, if the fraction is less than 1 whole, we leave it alone. If the fraction is greater than 1 whole, we take out the whole, we use the new fraction, and then we regroup that fraction whole into the regular wholes and marry them. If it's equal to 1 whole, we can simply add the 1 whole over. All right? Any questions or comments, please make sure to reach out. Thanks.